Good afternoon, everyone. We'll call to order the City of Murfreesboro Board of Zoning Appeals regular meeting for May 22nd, 2024. The first item on our agenda is a determination of a quorum with all 5 members of the board present. We do have a quorum today. Next is the public comment section. Has there been anyone that's reached out to speak before the meeting?
No, sir.
Okay. Next, we'll move to the consideration of the minutes for the regular meeting on April 24th, 2024. Those minutes were provided to the board. Are there any changes necessary to those? Hearing none, those minutes will stand as approved, and we'll move on to new business. First application today is a special use permit, application Z24012 by Mr. Matt Taylor, representing the Journey Home, LLC. They are requesting an amendment to an existing special use permit in order to construct a mission and group shelter in a heavy industrial zone, and this is for property located along the east side of Old Salem Road and north of Samsonite Boulevard. Mr. Donovan, if you'd review that for us.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Young. As you said, this is an application by Journey Home seeking approval for a special use permit for a mission and group shelter at 1207 Old Salem Road. So the original special use permit was approved by this board on March 24th, 2021. Since that time, they have made some updates to their site plan, and I'm going to pull it up where we can see it, reducing the required parking and the size of the building on the site. Let me get it up here. So their updated site plan includes a 12,804 square foot building, associated parking of 36 spaces with 2 accessible spaces on the site. The building is 2 stories and has required landscaping and infrastructure to serve the site. So the new facility will allow Journey Home to augment their existing services and allow for stays up to 90 days for homeless families with children. The building will have 10 family units with 3 beds. Cooking, meal preparation will also be provided, along with counseling, case management, clothing assistance, and other items on the site. In accordance with the applicant's letter, the mission related services will be operable from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., with those primarily being limited to mealtime services. The group shelter services will commence at 4 p.m. in the afternoon with an overnight dismissal at 8 a.m. the next day. The site will serve approximately 70 to 100 people per day for meals and daytime services. So at evening and overnight, there will be 30, at most 30 persons there, with 1 staff member there as well. So the property around this site, this is just south of Heritage Farms Dairy and Borders property owned by the City of Murfreesboro, the former fire station. And it was occupied by the Child Advocacy Center. To the northeast, there's an existing Bluegrass Trucking Company, as well as an existing single-family home. Across Old Salem is the Malloy family development that is having a road installed with that, as well as the new Circle K at the intersection of Middle Tennessee and New Salem Road. So the site plan depicts the parking, the required accessible spaces, as well as on their landscaping plan, they're showing a playground in the back of the site, along with the trash enclosure that is properly screened by, according to our design guidelines and zoning ordinance. The building and exterior materials will consist of brick, stone, and architectural metal panels with a metal roof. We're going to review all those items as part of their site plan submittal as well. for compliance with the zoning ordinance and design guidelines. Staff has reviewed the standards of general applicability as well as the specific use standards for mission and group shelters. And the applicant is compliant with those items. Kind of one item for note for the board is there is a condition that you may want to discuss further as far as requiring screening and to the adjoining properties. Staff has requested that they add back a 6-foot opaque privacy fence that was in the initial approval. They've agreed to do so. But you will see that as a condition of approval, but it's something you may want to discuss further as a board to add additional screening. My apologies. Trying to get the conditions so I can make sure they're on the record. All right, staff recommends approval of the special use permit due to the applicant meeting the general standards of applicability as well as the specific use standards for group shelter and mission uses. If approved, staff recommends the special use permit include the following conditions. BZA approval does not imply approval of the site plan. The site plan submittal shall include civil plans, landscape plans, photometric, and building elevations, and any other plans to demonstrate compliance with our zoning ordinance and design guidelines. And they shall be substantially consistent with what you see here today. The applicant shall include a fence for screening proposed along the rear and southern property lines, and a detail of the proposed fence shall be provided with the site plan submittal. And the applicant, Journey Homes, shall obtain all necessary state of Tennessee permits and approvals if required, and provide copies to the planning department prior to their certificate of occupancy.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for staff at this point?
Yes, sir, I got a couple. Just for clarification, I heard you say that it would be open Saturday and Sunday from 9 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Our report here says 9 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Is that?
It's 9 a.m. to 6:30 p.m.
6:30,
Yes, sir.
okay. And then secondly, you said that it was occupied. Is it the Child Activity Center? They're still the tenant in that other, in the old fire hall?
My understanding is that it is now ceased operation. I don't think we know that. I was discussing it with another staff member, and
Okay.
said that they thought that it had stopped, but
I think the Child Advocacy Center is still located.
Okay. I know, I think we had an application maybe a few years back for a homeless shelter that I think somewhere over there, near there, and they were in opposition to that. So I was just thinking outside the box whether or not they had voiced any support or objections to this proposal. So I guess we'll find that in the public hearing part. So, and then lastly, in your conditions, it was saying 6-foot fence. Is that still, or it didn't have 6-foot fence? It just had fence for screening purposes.
Yeah,
You mentioned a 6-foot primary fence, a privacy fence. Is that what?
yes, that's what staff's adding a condition for. The site plan that you have included in your packet doesn't include that, but I have had a discussion with them, and they've agreed to show that. And
6-foot privacy
Yes,
fence?
sir.
Okay. That's all I got. Thank you.
But just on two sides, is that correct?
About the north,
Yes, and it would be, on the site plan, it'll run right down next to an area that is wetlands that you're seeing on the screen there. Go to the back of the property, then up the side and terminate near the dumpster enclosure is what I've seen. That's consistent with how it was approached last time it was before this body as well, because the building is providing some manner of screening there, and this is screening where a playground and some open space is going to be in the rear of the structure.
Could you, and maybe I'm missing this, but this looks like it's a brand-new application rather than an amendment. Are there specific things that need to be amended? Or have they provided a brand-new plan, and so they're really asking for a new application? What are we amending?
Yeah, and so when these come before the board, we have them provide a site plan, and one of the conditions I actually read off to you is it must be substantially consistent. In this case, it's changed significantly from that.
Okay.
You know, so in reality, what we're looking at is an amended site plan that they're gonna.
But because of the amount of change, it's not like in past history, even with special use permits, it might be that they like moved the dumpster enclosure. And that was, but I mean, it doesn't seem substantial, but it still was substantial enough for us. There was 3 or 4 things, and so we still needed to approve it. But this is where the entire site plan has changed.
Yes, ma'am. The site plan has changed. I mean, the building has been reconfigured. It's
Okay.
a smaller footprint of parking as well.
Okay. I just don't have the old application in front of me, so I can't see those changes to know what's appropriate for us to consider as a change or an amendment versus what's appropriate as a new special use permit.
Sure. If you're okay, I'll be happy to go over those. If you can show the podium monitor. And I'm Matt Taylor of SCC. I've also got Mr. Scott Foster, the, I think his title's Executive Director of Journey Home here. And then got several members in support over my right shoulder that have been involved with or continue to be involved with our organization. So originally the application, our building was closer to the property line over here. And then we kind of extended, I don't know the exact dimensions, but had a wing that kind of came out the back. And then we also extended some parking down the side and had our dumpster kind of in this area.
Okay.
And so whenever we got into the project and they started running budgets, obviously it's a very price sensitive project. They had seen a lot of price escalation over the past couple of years, as every project I've dealt with has. And so they've spent from the 2021 to now doing some fundraising, also doing VE, so we've reduced the building size. Really what they're doing here is going to remain the same. They've gotten a little more efficient with their footprint, and I think taking out maybe some admin type uses, and so really just reduce that to get the project scope and budget back in line. And so what we're doing is the same, and it's going to look very similar from the street, but those were the changes that we did. And we also moved this building off the property line to preserve some wetlands to the rear of the site there that we did not know that was there when we did the original special use application. Those came up after the fact.
Okay.
Does that wetland there to the north prohibit or tweak what you can do as far as screening for that?
I think that with what Richard had indicated, I think we plan on bringing that fence kind of like something like that.
It still won't be in the buffer.
Right. We will keep it out of the wetlands. TDEC doesn't. We're going to impact some wetlands that we just don't show here, so we show the ones that are going to be preserved. But TDEC won't let us put that in the wetland itself.
I guess the Miss Burnett's house, Juanita Burnett, that's there, is there just some existing vegetation, I guess, along that property line for that
There
residence
is, and I think there's some individual trees, but then we're also extending some of these. We're planting some new trees along that side as well.
Okay. All right.
I got, of our legal counsel, do we have a responsibility to acknowledge, put for the record if we donated to this organization that's applying?
I always would err on the side of disclosure. However, as far as conflict of interest rules, a donation would not be tantamount to a beneficial financial interest.
I'll just put it on the record that I've donated to this cause several times, but that's not going to affect my ability to make a decision.
Okay, thank you.
Since we're doing that, I'll make the same comment.
All right. any further questions for the applicant at this point? Anything else you'd like to add to the application?
The only question that I have, and this may be for Matt or the representative of Journey Home, you know, what I wouldn't want to happen here is people mingling to, I don't know if whoever lives in this house, onto that property. And so having the fence go all the way down the property line kind of makes more sense to me, so that people would not necessarily, the fence is not going to keep them from going on the other person's property. But if somebody's living there, I think at least it would help the fact that they wouldn't just walk across.
And if I'm not mistaken, there is an existing fence. I don't remember what style of fence that is, but there's an existing fence along that shared property line. At least there was when we did the survey. I believe it's still there. Somebody could correct me if I'm wrong about that, but I believe there's still an existing fence through there.
If there's not, I'd like to know that.
I think we would be happy to add one if there's not one.
Okay.
And so we could take care of that with our site plan.
Okay.
It's not a problem. So there is already a wooden fence on that side
Okay.
today.
Thank you.
All right, if there's nothing else from the applicant or no more questions, we'll move on to the public hearing. If anyone present wishes to speak for or against this application, if you'd come up and give us your name and address and provide us any comments you may have. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and open the floor for any further discussion or a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move for approval of this application as presented with the noted recommended conditions of approval that's noted in staff's comments. I believe that this proposal wouldn't have any other substantial adverse effect on the neighborhood. It's compatible with the immediate vicinity, doesn't interfere with the adjacent properties or their use. It's adequately served by the public utilities and facilities, and should not result in any damage or loss of destruction to any natural, scenic, or historic properties around it, and appears to comply with all of the standards in the ordinance. And I'd have that motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If you call the roll for us.
Ms. Foy?
Aye.
Ms. King?
Aye.
Mr. Tips?
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton?
Aye.
Chair Young?
Aye. All right, that application's been approved. Appreciate everybody's time. Next, we'll move to application Z24013 by James and Jessica Pinson. They are requesting a special use permit in order to construct and establish an accessory apartment in an RS-15 single-family residential zone, and this is for property located at 2882 Sulphur Springs Road. Mr. Aguilera, if you'd review that one for us.
Yes, thank you, Chair Young. This second item that we have, I'll wait for everybody to clear out a little bit. This second item that we have on today's agenda is a special use permit request to establish an accessory apartment. Accessory apartment is proposed to be located at 2882 Sulphur Springs Road. The applicants, Mr. and Mrs. James and Jessica Pinson, are requesting this application so they can help establish the accessory apartment for a family member so that they may age in place. This is being requested again so that they could just have that family member there. This is to be only used for family purposes. The property is zoned RS-15, and as you all may be aware, again, to establish an accessory apartment and independent dwelling unit for this purpose, they will need to get a special use permit for this use. The accessory structure will be 21 feet in height. Is proposed to be 675 feet in floor area, so it meets those standards. As you can see with this in your staff report, in this overview, there's a little bit of extra background to this. I'm going to pull up the plot plan that was provided with us. During staff's initial conversation, so the applicant purchased this property in 2023. During the initial conversations with staff, it was found that Due North Drive had never been properly abandoned. There is existing right-of-way there. Due North Drive had been was previously a city public right-of-way, and as such, during our research, we found that permits were never pulled for that existing garage. The previous owners never pulled those permits, and so it was in violation. And with the new location and the proposed accessory apartment, we found that that proposed accessory apartment was also going to be in the front setback from Due North Drive. And so one of the many things that the applicant had to do was first, one, abandon Due North Drive. So they submitted a mandatory referral application to the Planning Commission. That was approved, recommended approval from Planning Commission, and that application then went to City Council, where it was approved in March. And so they had already begun that process for the abandonment of Due North Drive, and are in the process of recording the quitclaim deed for that. And so they had to get that corrected because, as you all know, per our procedure, we would not allow a special use permit request to move before you all, before this board, until said violation is corrected. And so they have done that. One of the conditions of the quitclaim, of the mandatory referral application was they also record a final plat to record the new property lines. And as you can see here, they have already done so. Their surveyor has already submitted a final plat to record those new property lines and dedicate any of the required easements for the property and for this use. One of the things, too, that I wanted to highlight early on in this report, some new information. The applicant is here, so he can also expand on that should you all have any questions. Mr. Pinson is here to answer those. But in our review of the property as well, you can see a 40-foot public utility easement going on right here. That was found during this review. During the final plat review, staff worked with MTE to review this location of the utility easement, and they found that there was no concern of moving it. There was no concern of the garage being in that easement, and so they rectified that issue. With the relocation of this easement, this is kind of a preliminary sketch that was submitted to us from the Pinsons. You can see it will be further relocated. The pole location will be further relocated closer to the abandoned Due North Drive. And with that relocation of the easement, the proposed accessory apartment structure will also be moving to match the facade of the garage. So we are going to be making an updated condition of approval. That was just notified by us from Mr. Piston today. And so just wanted to let you all know that, as you know, not to surprise you all or anything with that. But we will make a condition with that. So all those steps, again, that the applicant had to apply for and rectify for this existing garage has been satisfactory. They have gone through the required steps. Again, they have gone through the mandatory referral application process to abandon Due North Drive. That is done. That is being done currently. They have submitted a final plat to record the new property lines, so it corrects that existing violation of the garage and the proposed accessory structure to ensure that they are no longer being in that front setback and that they will comply with those minimum development standards for detached accessory structures. That information, again, is in your staff report to kind of explain that. Again, if you have any questions, Mr. Pinson is here as well, so he can explain kind of what MTE has said, but we have, again, gotten confirmation from that they are okay with that request. Moving forward with it, as you can see with the special use permit request, we have put in those and outlined those standards for the minimum development standards for detached accessory structures for accessory apartments. As you can see, the applicant is complying with the maximum floor area for an accessory apartment, the maximum height for detached accessory structures in a residential district, as well as, again, those setback standards for a detached accessory structure. In confirming with Mr. Pinson, with the proposed accessory structure being moved to match the same distance of the existing garage, again, they will still be satisfying the minimum development standards for a detached accessory structure. The standards for a detached accessory structure, again, are that you have to be 60 feet from the front property line, 10 feet behind the front facade of the house, 5 feet away from the house, and 5 feet away from any side and rear property line. And so that information is still being consistent and still being compliant with, even with the relocation and movement of the proposed accessory apartment. As required with the, per our zoning ordinance, as required with our zoning ordinance of Section 9, the applicant shall present evidence to demonstrate how they intend to comply with the general standards of applicability and the additional standards for accessory apartment. That information has been provided to you all in our agenda packet with the procedure forms and outlining how they will intend to comply. In review of the standards of the general standards of applicability, the applicant, staff believes that the applicant has met all those standards. Staff does not anticipate any kind of major change to existing traffic patterns. This is only going to be for one family member. They will be proposing a new driveway, and so there will be no real change to existing traffic patterns, no real changes to any major changes to utilities other than working with MTE to, again, correct that easement. There will be no change to or real impact to the character of the neighborhood. The applicant is proposing to construct this structure using materials that are consistent with the neighborhood, using brick and siding, as you can see here. And so staff believes that the applicant has met those standards of general standards of applicability, and will be compliant with the bulk standards as well for detached accessory structures. The applicant is also aware that they will be required to record a restriction on use of land. They are aware of that standard and will be complying with that as well. For the additional standards for accessory apartments, staff believes those standards have been met. Again, this structure maximum floor area is 700 square feet. The applicant will be constructing this to be 675 square feet. There is no proposed garage or anything alongside of this for them to convert later, and so this will just be the accessory apartment. So they are meeting that, complying with that standard. Again, per standard number 3 of the additional standards, they meet the minimum bulk standards. Even with the relocation, they meet those minimum bulk standards, being 60 feet behind the front property line, 10 feet behind the front facade of the house, 5 feet away from the house, and 5 feet away from any proposed property lines, as well as any required easements. So staff believes that they have met those additional standards for accessory apartments. Staff's recommendation per the applicant's materials that they have provided and the plot plan that they have shown, staff is recommending that based on the meeting of the minimum development standards of the zoning ordinance, staff recommends approval subject to the following conditions as you've seen outlined below to permit this 675 square foot accessory apartment as shown here with these 4 standards. There is, again, going to be an added condition of approval with this that I'm going to make with this new relocation, and so I'm going to read that off. The recommended conditions of approval are the following: that the owner of the property for this accessory apartment unit shall occupy at least one of the dwelling units of the premise, and members of the family or their invited guests shall occupy the other dwelling unit. In no event shall either of the units be used as a rental unit to non-family members. The applicant shall record the final plat prior to the issuance of any building permits. And then this new added additional standard: prior to applying for building permits, the applicant shall submit a revised plot plan showing the new location of the accessory apartment to verify its compliance with the minimum bulk standards for detached accessory structures per the zoning ordinance, and for staff to verify its location with the new relocated MTE easement. That is going to be that new addition, that new condition that would be added to that. Again, we have already notified Mr. Pinson here as well of that, and he has understood that condition, will comply with that as well. Condition number 3, prior to applying for building permits, the applicant shall complete and record the restriction on use of land document prepared by the city attorney, which shall limit the use of the accessory apartment to only what is allowed by the zoning ordinance. And the condition number 4, the applicant shall obtain all necessary permits to complete and pass the required inspections with the Building and Codes Department and shall comply with all the code requirements. I'm here if you have any questions. Mr. Pinson is here as well. Again, we did not have time to have that updated exhibit, but in talking with Mr. Pinson and with the relocation of the MTE easement, staff believes that there will be no concern with this new location of the accessory apartment. Based on the size of the property and depth of the property, we believe that this will be compliant with those minimum development standards. But I'm here if you have any questions as well.
So Joel, can you bring up the aerial view that you had earlier?
of the plot plan or if, like for GIS?
GIS.
Yeah. I think I had something here. This is
All
what
right,
you're referring to?
so, understanding due north has been abandoned. I'm assuming that the portion of due north will be, though, improved at least to where this new driveway is going to be next to, between the garage and the accessory structure.
Are you improvements? Are you talking about like this whole roadway
This just
here?
looks like and the applicant can speak to it, but it just looks like it's grown up.
Yeah, it has. Mr. Pinson can speak more to it, but from my understanding, yeah, it's just kind of been overgrown with vegetation, and I think because it's been abandoned, there will be no real improvements other than what the property owners make. They are putting a new driveway to come off this area here. I'll show this on their packet. They are going to be making a new proposed driveway, but for Due North Drive specifically, that's going to be abandoned. The city does not anticipate any kind of improvements with that. I'm not sure from the property owner, but we will be retaining an access easement in that area, so public infrastructure can access the utilities in the back. But beyond that, I'm not aware.
Yeah, I don't, then I'm misunderstanding. How is he going to access this proposed driveway if it's not off of due north?
It's due north is being, and good evening, or good afternoon, Board of Zoning Appeals members. Due North Drive is being abandoned, but in its place is being recorded an access easement not only for the utility holders in the city, but also an access easement to benefit the two property owners since they gain access to their properties, vehicular access via the abandoned Due North Drive. So it will remain the access for the two properties.
So I'll ask my question again. So where Due North Drive ends today, is an improvement going to be made to the proposed driveway between the proposed accessory apartment and the garage? Because it does not look like it reaches that far.
Just real quick, you'll pull that back up. So basically where that square ends, there's gravel behind it, and then it's just basically more yard. We will probably go right off from there and take a driveway in between the two structures, and my mother-in-law will park in between.
Right. So you won't pave the rest of, you just
No.
leave it as gravel?
Well, no, the rest of that is grass. So it's actually fairly nice grass at this point. The gravel behind there, we'll probably pull that up and make it look nicer.
Confused.
Yeah, I still don't understand how you're going to get to the driveway between the two buildings unless it's through the grass or through the gravel. I'm
No,
failing to understand.
I guess if you see where it looks like a vehicle's parked on.
Yes,
That's still paved. We're going
still
to-
paved.
It's an old road. It needs to be repaved.
Yeah.
So we're going to do that.
Okay, that's all I need to know. That's all I need.
But we're not going to extend it or anything else.
Yeah,
We're
no,
just-
I get that.
Yeah.
I just, whatever.
There's pavement past the black line that it
Correct.
indicates
Yeah.
the road
It
ends.
just gets more
There's still
broken up.
pavement.
It just needs to be kind
Okay,
of made
but you're going to
nicer.
improve that to get to your
You're
next.
not going to off-road to get to your driveway.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah, there'll be, yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you. Yeah. No,
Any other questions for staff at this point?
I think I understand, but you get to your house by turning off of Sulphur Springs and turning onto Due North now, right? That's what it looks like from that aerial.
That's correct.
You-
So-
A half moon off of Due North is your driveway.
Correct, and then our neighbors do
That's
as
not
well.
going to change, right?
That's not going to change at all.
And Due North, you're going to, from that portion of what's Due North, you're going to repave it
At some point,
at some point.
yes.
But that's the only access point you're going to have. You're not going to have another
Correct.
driveway off.
Correct.
Okay. I understand.
It'll be another driveway off of what used to be Due North Road, which will now be a driveway.
Okay.
So Due North Road is no longer city property and now is a shared driveway between these two houses.
If I understand it
that-
correctly, they actually divided it in half. It's no longer shared. We own one half of that road, and our neighbors
Do
own.
you guys have an easement for either side of your property? So how is,
So the legal department and Mr. Pinson are in the process of drafting and recording the quitclaim deed, abandoning so City Council and Planning Commission have already approved the abandonment action. Now it's just a matter of getting the quitclaim deed recorded. And once that quitclaim deed is recorded, it will split the right-of-way, half to Mr. Pinson, half to his neighbor to the west. And then the plat that Joel referenced earlier will formally change the lot lines to incorporate that abandoned right-of-way into those two lots.
But wouldn't the two property owners need to have an easement for access easement for both of them to be able to access the other
Yes.
half of their?
Yes, that's what I was referencing earlier, the entire abandoned right-of-way.
Well, I thought you were referring to the access easement the city will have to access utilities.
No,
The property owners will also have access easements so that they both have access to the former road, now shared driveway.
right, that's correct. That's what I said earlier, was that the city and the utility holders would have an access easement, but that the access easement would also benefit the two lot owners as well.
Okay.
Is there a maintenance agreement for this driveway that's actually going to be shared now?
There's not now. We haven't really discussed that. It's my understanding, we've kind of informally discussed that we're going to get it repaved, mostly just because it needs it, but we haven't had anything formal done.
Okay.
I mean, if their property line goes to the middle of that road, then one side owns one side and has to,
That's right. And typically you would have a maintenance agreement.
that's up to the property owner.
Yeah,
It's not
that is true. Yeah.
It's none of our business.
To respond to that, I think if it were a public access easement, like at a commercial shopping center where that's when we would get involved in a maintenance agreement to make sure if the public was traveling on it. But since it's just for two property owners, I think typically, and Mr. Hankins can correct me if I'm wrong, that we would leave that up to the individual property owners to negotiate.
That's generally the case, yes.
Well, okay.
Any further questions for Mr. Aguilera or the applicant? All right, then we'll move on to the public hearing. Is there anyone present wishing to speak for or against this application? If you'd come forward. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and open the floor for any further discussion or motion.
I move to approve application subject to staff comments,
That is also the added,
including the staff comment that you orally added.
Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Would you call the roll for us?
Ms. Foy?
Aye.
Ms. King?
Aye.
Mr. Tips?
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton?
Aye.
Chair Young?
Aye. All right, that application's been approved. Appreciate your time. Next item, staff reports and other business.
We don't have anything additional, Chair Young.
All right. Well, with that, we'll adjourn. Appreciate everybody's time.